We're going to do burns, and then we'll have one video on the different skin disorders. So, what is a burn? A burn, his definition, is tissue damage because of the following different things. Things like heat, intense heat, electricity, radiation, chemicals. Alright, so these can lead to cell death. We know that burns result in protein denaturation. So denaturation is the loss of that tertiary structure. We talked about that in Unit 1, where we had a primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure for proteins. So tertiary structures give rise to those active sites, so these proteins can actually be functional. So when you denature them, you lose that tertiary structure, and these proteins don't function, and then your cells can die. So, yeah, the protein denaturation is a problem, but along with that, the bigger problems associated with burns is this risk of dehydration. So when you burn off that epidermis, we lose all these cells that have these lamellated vesicles having this glycolipids. So we lose a bunch of water because we don't have this waterproofing mechanism. So we get dehydrated, and we also lose electrolytes. Things like sodium and potassium that are regulating muscle contraction and different physiological processes in the body. This can affect things like kidneys. So whenever you lose your electrolytes, that plays a big role in kidney damage. You can whenever you lose all this water, because you lose water, you have less water in your blood vessels, so you can have circulation issues. You'll also get these secondary bacterial infections. So these are different problems associated with burns. Yes, you get your protein denatured, but you're also losing water, losing these electrolytes that are vital for physiological processes. You have exposure. You don't have this protective acid mantle anymore. You don't have these Langerhans cells functioning in immunity, so you can get these secondary bacterial infections. Yeah, I think that's pretty good to start off with burns. So when you're asking, well, what degree of burn do I have, you need to ask, well, what damage to the integument do I have? So how much of the integument do I have? What regions of the skin were involved? The epidermis, the dermis, that sort of stuff. So for classifications of burns, let me write some stuff up. So when we're classifying burns, let's start with first degree. This first degree burn, this is damage only to the epidermis. So we call this a partial thickness burn. This can heal itself in 2 to 3 days without any sort of intervention. You can get this thing from sunburns, steam, chemicals. Your different symptoms. SX is symptoms. This is redness, swelling, pain. Okay, so that's primary. Epidermis only, and these are the symptoms. So the second degree burns, this is all the epidermis, and then some of the dermis. So I don't know exactly how to describe it, whether it means only the papillary layer, none of the reticular, or maybe some of the reticular. I'm not sure. All we're going to say is superficial dermis. So not the whole dermis. Once again, because it's not the whole dermis, we haven't gone through both of those layers of skin. This is just going to be a partial thickness burn. This takes about 3 to 4 weeks to heal. You can get this from the sun, steam, electricity, boiling water. And so you're going to get all the symptoms from first degree. So that includes the redness, the swelling, and the pain. But you're also going to get blistering. That's the key to classify second degree burn. Do you have blistering? So redness, swelling, pain. And in addition to that, we also get blistering. Alright, the third degree burn. This is all of the epidermis and all of the dermis. So this is a full thickness burn. And typically you get damage to the underlying tissues underneath that dermis. So things like nerves get destroyed, blood vessels get destroyed. Let's see. Well, the blood vessels, I don't know. Those might be considered in the connective tissue of the dermis. So, but the whole point is, people say you can't feel third degree burns. That's because you have this nerve damage, charring. So this blackening of the skin is significant, or exists with these third degree burns. So people say that there's no pains with these third degree burns, but if I draw my hand, that's such a bad hand. If I have this third degree burn here, and this is all third degree, well, I have surrounding second degree and first degree burns all over here. So there's still plenty of pain associated with this. Just because they can't feel this doesn't mean that their whole hand isn't on fire. So that's just one thing to note. You still have pain. Why though? Because second degree and first degree surrounds it. Alright, so this is not going to heal by itself. Because we have damage to this dermis, we have all these blood vessels destroyed. You need those blood vessels to bring in nutrients and get rid of waste, but we don't have that mechanism. So instead what we have to do is we have to get rid of layers of dead skin to expose this underlying live tissue. That process of getting rid of that dead skin is called debridement. So if you've watched a medical show before, perhaps you've seen debriding. Very painful process because you're exposing those live nerves. Typically you have to get skin grafts, so taking skin from one part of the body to cover up this exposed tissue. And sometimes some surgical procedures outside of that. Alright, those are burns. What is a burn? Tissue damage that results in protein denaturation caused by intense heat, electricity, steam, all sorts of things. Problems associated with burning outside of the protein denaturation includes water loss, which leads to dehydration. You get things like electrolyte loss, like sodium and potassium, that are important for different physiological processes in the body. When you lose this water, you get a decrease in volume in your blood vessels of fluid, so you have poor circulation affecting different organs. That can go downhill pretty fast, and then you have these secondary bacterial infections that you have to worry about. We went through the different classifications with a primary burn or a first degree burn. That's only damage to the epidermis caused by heat from the sun, from steam, that sort of thing. Will heal within 2 to 3 days by itself, no help needed, and it involves redness, swelling, and pain. The second degree burn, it's going to take about 3 to 4 weeks to heal by itself. It's going to have all the same symptoms from first degree, but it's also going to have this additional blistering. That's our thing that we know blistering right here. That's our symptom that we know it's a second degree. So we're going to burn through that all of the epidermis, and then some of the superficial part of the dermis. So this is still a partial thickness burn. As we move into third-degree burns, burning through all the epidermis, all of the dermis, and then we burn those blood vessels and nerves underneath it. So this tissue dies. We see this charring, this blackening, charring. There is pain associated with this because we have secondary and first-degree burns surrounding the third. The third-degree burns, if you've burned all the nerves, then you won't feel it in that specific spot. This won't heal by itself because everything is dead, so you have to debride the skin using skin grafts and different surgical procedures to help heal. Alright, this is the end of this video, and we'll wrap up the integument with some of these skin disorders.